Uh, Probably three things, I think. I think it's helpful for an entry to be sort of a consistent and cohesive whole. So, I mean, the entry form starts with asking about what your strategy is. Um, I've always taken the view that you need a kind of consistency throughout the whole entry. So you start with your objectives and your strategy, then in the subsequent sections, if you could sort of articulate how the different things you're doing support that overall objectives and strategy, I think that's helpful. I think being specific in your answers to the different questions is kind of critical, really, because it's very easy to sort of slip into generic statements about what you've been doing, but if you can back it up with metrics, I think that probably helps one's entry to stand out a little bit. And thirdly, just being mindful of the fact that I think it's not just looking for one or two great jumps or great big initiatives that you've maybe had as a firm, but sometimes it's the little incremental steps you've been taking in different areas of your practice, which maybe in isolation don't seem like big things, but when you sort of put them all together, they can really make a contribution to taking your practice forward. So I'm always mindful in our entry of trying to capture as many of those different little things as possible.
The application process, I think, is key. Not just because obviously you have to get the application submitted, but what the application says and how you say what you want to say is I think key as a judge. It's key because you don't have a lot of space to get across often quite passionate and complex sort of like feelings about the business and where you think the business is going. But nonetheless, you do have to sort of condense it quite much into small little segments. So, and it can make a difference when you're reading those applications.
And for me, who has judged one of these years ago, I would say it is around providing that kind of specific evidence. I think it's probably stronger to have one or two parts to the application with evidence for each rather than 5 without. So I think that was what we were always looking for is, okay, how are you actually evidencing those claims?
Well, it's great, really. I mean, I don't think there are many opportunities in our profession to willingly submit yourself to external scrutiny, and the only outcome can be a positive one, really. I mean, you either get shortlisted or you don't. If you don't, there's more incentive to do better and work harder. And if you do, I think it's great recognition, not just personally, but I think particularly for all my colleagues, for everyone on the team, really. To have someone completely external to the business, give you a pat on the back basically and say, "Oh, you're doing pretty good." I think for our team is really motivational, and it's great recognition for them. I mean, obviously it's great for our profile externally. It's a fantastic and powerful thing to be able to say that you're an award-winning firm. So it's definitely helpful for that point of view. For a prospect thinking of coming to us, perhaps it makes a difference between coming to us or not coming to us. That sort of, again, that peer-reviewed external validation of what we're doing, I think is very powerful. And beyond that, internally, as I've said, I think motivationally for the team, I think people are very proud to work at Scholes because the recognition the firm's had externally, that we're doing things right and going in the right direction.
There are many reasons why people apply, and put their firm forwards for scrutiny, and and obviously ultimately for promotional purposes. But I think it does quite a lot internally. So the practice, the business that's doing this, I think it means a lot to them and their people. A, to apply. B, even better if they win, and that then just creates further energies throughout those businesses. So I'm a huge advocate of the Excellence Awards, as you can imagine.
Personally, I think the outside of the winning, I've spoken to quite a few people who have taken part in the Accounting Excellence Awards as well as other awards. And I think there is that process of actually applying for it that causes a certain introspection, which has a great benefit for the practice anyway. And I think it's always great to see that even people who get shortlisted or don't even get shortlisted, but the fact that they've gone through that process means they have thought about themselves in quite a level of detail that they don't normally do. So
I think that's a really good point, Andy. I mean, truthfully, in our annual planning cycle, when I'm thinking about where we need to push ahead, it's true to say I have in the back of my mind the thought, well, how is this going to play out in a year's time when I look back? How can I talk about our challenges and our successes, and what metrics can I use to demonstrate how we've moved forward? I always have at the back of my mind this process, and the pitch for an award again. It's become part of our annual cycle, really, honestly.
Well, I guess how many times do you ask those questions? I think you're all guilty of just ploughing on with our jobs, and we don't get asked those questions that make you stop and think. So I think there's a big advantage in that. So.
Yeah, it's the discipline, and it's hard to do. I mean, we've all worked in firms. We all know how hard it is to extricate yourself from the day to day and actually spend time working on your business. But it's so important, and it makes all the difference, really. And I think the Accounting Excellence process is an incentive and an encouragement to step back from the day to day and actually, think, what do I need to work on? Where can I improve what we do? And that's certainly very much what we do here.
Depends how late in the evening.
Remember everything up to that point. Yeah, no, it was brilliant, actually, and we couldn't believe it. I was there with my colleague Karen, and it was a sort of sharp intake of breath, really. We've been shortlisted, I think, 2 of the 3 years before, and we honestly didn't expect to win. So it was thrilling. Really, really brilliant. We'd had a great night up to that point anyway. Tom Allen was a great host and very funny. Unless you work at Sage, perhaps not so funny then.
That was a bit brutal. What did you think about the guy who gave you the award?
Tremendous fellow.
I thought he was really good. I thought he was one of the best.
Handshake.
Fine fellow.
I mean, I can't comment as a winner because I've never applied, but as a person who attends the event, you can always, everybody's obviously really happy when they've won, because I think it just validates everything that's gone before it in terms of how the practice or the business has changed, or whatever it's done. It's obviously done something that's impressive, and so it's nice to be validated for those things that you're doing in your business or in your market sector. So and you can see that, and even those that don't unfortunately win on the night, there's still a sense of validation because you're still there with people who are trying to do the same thing as you are, which is to try and move your business forward, trying to innovate, just trying to be the best that you can be, which is what it's about, isn't it? the questions like, what does an award-winning entry look like? How do we stand out from a crowd? That kind of thing. Yeah, not answering the question is the key one, I think. I appreciate on the application process itself, you don't really have a lot of space to maybe express sometimes quite complex or sometimes just theoretical concepts sometimes. But so things like when we say, for example, the question might be, what are you doing to keep your clients happy? And to be fair, that's quite a vague question to a degree. And then people might say, they might make reference to, we utilize cloud software, or, we're looking after our staff's mental health. And all of these things are great, he says. But how does having, cloud software and, happy staff lead to happier clients? And okay, we can fill in the gaps. Obviously, happy people who are productive and love doing what they do will do great work, and therefore great work translates into obviously happy clients. But it's just kind of like, as a judge, it's not really for us to fill in the blanks. Although, as an experience, I've been working in accountancy for 20 something years, so I get it, I understand it. But it's nice to just see sometimes, that sort of joining the dots. And we're forgetting, we're applying for best, whether tax team, best mid-sized firm, whatever. So, and I've seen applications where they say, we're using all these digital apps and all of these new sort of add-ins, which is great, again, because that's the way the technology in the industry is going. But again, how does having, a system that automatically reads, customers' purchase invoices into the computer, how does that make for happier clients? So it's that kind of stuff, yeah. And repetition as well is another thing. So I think there's a balance between a theme, because you want a theme, because ultimately you go, what's this business about? Why is this the best team that we're judging for? And I won't say that all firms do all of these things, but most accountancy practices, whether they're in the digital space or whether they're the more traditional, wood panelled accountancy practice, the high street presence. They all we're more or less doing the same things, and it's the things that is a little bit different that makes us stand out. So again, things like when he says, one of the questions would be like, why are you best at whatever it is that you think you're doing? But then we often get the same answers for more or less some of the same questions, get the same sort of answers. Mm-hmm. And it's really like, actually, if you find yourself answering the same question again with the same sort of answer, then really maybe what we're really seeking is a little bit more depth to the theme, or what you've started at the first answer gives a little bit more depth further along, rather than just saying as above, because I've seen that before, as above, we look after our staff, or we have staff days, and it's like, nice, fine, but we need to delve a little bit deeper. Does that sort of make sense? Yeah, so what I'm just looking for, I guess, is, I won't say anything different, because ultimately, we don't know what our competitor firms or other firms around us are doing. But whatever it is that you're doing, let's rephrase that, I guess, is that often different businesses that are applying are at different stages. Some may believe that they're further ahead than they perhaps are. Others are smaller firms that are actually punching way above their weight. Others are larger firms that actually are doing really well, but then you'd expect that from a larger type firm. So there isn't any right or wrong answer. I think what's clear when we've judged in the past is that the passion comes through. You can see it straight away. It's like reading a really good novel. The first page, you're like, wow, I'm hooked. And so a passionate entry that just speaks about your business, your practice, and your people and your clients, can make the difference, rather than just a case of, we look after, we keep our clients happy, we keep our staff happy. It's like, well, that's nice, we all do that, but why are your staff happier? Why are your clients happier? Because ultimately that's what we're here for, keeping everybody happy. Hopefully that answers the question.
Hopefully we're going to see a lot more in the way of strategic thinking coming through. Firms demonstrating that they're ready to tackle whatever happens with any new government, any new legislation coming out of around MTD, for example, which may or may not change. Some strategic thinking that demonstrates that they are getting ahead of that curve. I really hope we can see some of that. And also echoing Jason's point earlier, I think the staff retention thing is still absolutely critical, and the people are having to think very creatively, and it doesn't just about having pizza Fridays or whatever. It's got to be a genuine career development approach to staff, their when I say their well-being, I mean their progress, their progression, and their development. And I think that's really key. TaxCalc is a proud sponsor of the mid-tier category. It's an area that TaxCalc traditionally was a software which was being found its home in the small practice space, and probably for the first decade of its life focused very much on that. Because of the developments that we've done, particularly since 2015, but also very much since 2020 when we launched the practice management suite, we've attracted a lot of attention from firms that have got 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 staff and larger. So we wanted to meet a lot more firms in that space, and it seemed a natural fit for us to sponsor that category. To me, I'm going to say it's the only award that genuinely recognises the fine work that accounting firms are doing, and not just their work doing accounting, but also running some really, really well-run businesses. I was part of the team that gave birth to the Accounting Excellence Awards back in about 2012 in a previous life. So it does mean a lot to me personally, because I've kind of been there since the very, very start with John Stockdike. But I think, as I say, there is no other award that genuinely gets into this under the skin of different firms. It doesn't just look at their financial performance; it genuinely gets under the skin of how they are run, and that's a really, really valuable thing.
It's an awards series, unlike the traditional ones. You see, I mean, there's lots of other awards out there, but this is, as you said, Andy, this is the one that does get deep down into the nuts and bolts of the business. As I said, that's why as a judge we look at everything. We're not just looking at the application form itself. We're looking at the website and everything else that goes behind it, because it matters, because that's what our businesses need to stand out and to be excellent.
It's a bit of a cheerleader for the profession, really, isn't it? And the process itself, the night itself, is great. A lot of the sort of interviews and discussions that spin off from it as well are always worth following. It creates a lot of good press and interesting material where I think people across the profession can learn what leading firms and individuals are doing, and we can all benefit from that.
Yeah. I think for me, it's just nice to see so many firms who are, I won't say committing to the cause, but they are firms that are passionate about what they're doing in the sector that they operate in, and they want to share and show off a little in terms of what they've done and what they're doing, and why not? So that's what I get from an evening when as a judge.
For me, it's got to be the faces on the winners, and particularly when you do get the opportunity to be giving that award away. But even if you're sitting down in the crowd, particularly the faces of not necessarily the owners or the managers of those firms, but the junior staff, and the sheer delight when you've got someone who's possibly in their first job and they've won an award and they get a chance to dress up and be celebrated. I think it's genuinely heartwarming.
Yeah, I mean, it's a real treat for us because we live in the wilds of Scotland, so it's good for a trip up to the big city.
It's the only time you meet anyone, is it?
Yeah, no, we always had a good time, and like Andy said, really, particularly taking on the youngsters, it's a real treat and a real reward for them.
Yeah. Simon Sinek.
Who? Sorry.
Simon Sinek, who the Power of Why guy.
Yeah.
Or Tim Minchin. He could write a musical about it.
He could do the presentation in tune, in rhyme, couldn't he?
Oh, it'd be amazing.
That's not
I
a bad
think
thing, actually.
the Accounting Excellence, the musical, could well be the next West End hit.
Do you know what? Why not?
Why not?
No, I think some form of comedian who is not necessarily controversial is probably ideal for the night, because accountancy is fun, it is exciting, really, honestly it is. So we need somebody with energy in terms of a presentation. I couldn't name one. I'm going to cop out, I'm afraid, and say I couldn't name one specifically, but just I like the idea of the comedians we have had in previous years. Comedians, you can say. Yeah,
pretty good shout, Jason. I think I would go along with a good comedian.
Yeah,
Paul Whitehouse is one of my favourites. I think Paul Whitehouse would be great.
That could work as well, actually, couldn't it? Yes, absolutely.
I got my.
I think if you feel that you are making a difference, and you may not realize that you're actually making such a huge difference, but if you're doing good things in your firm, why not apply? Why not? The worst thing that can happen is that you don't get shortlisted. That's literally the worst thing. So
yeah,
makes you may not realize, but you're doing something amazing, and you can be well recognized for that.
Yeah, yeah. Why not? I mean, it's a crowded marketplace out there. There's a lot of people doing similar things at different levels, different prices, in different sectors. So if you're doing something that you think is great and it's good for your business, you've got good people working with you, and you've got happy clients that love what you do, then why not promote it? Why not shout out and say, look at us. Let's try and lead, the sector. It's a bit of a challenge, but we're up for challenges.
Yeah, I couldn't put it any better than what Jason and Andy just said, really. I mean, I'd be curious to know where you stand. I'd be curious to know how you're doing. I was. That's why we got involved in the process in the first place, really.
How confident were you of winning when you put your application in? Did you think I've got a good chance, or was it a total?
We work really hard, right? I mean, we all work hard, I know that, but I mean, I think here at Scholes, we do look around and see what others are doing, and we don't obsess about what others are doing, but that's our benchmark. We want to do well, right? So we weren't confident, we're not arrogant, but we thought we'd be in with a shout. But that was a multi-year thing, right? As I said, we entered a couple of years, didn't get anywhere. It's been, like trying to make any good business, it takes consistent, application of effort over a long period of time. That's been our journey.
Yeah.
Yeah.